Do you ever think about nuclear hazards? If you ever listen to Helen Caldicott speak, that's all you'll be able to think about. Dr. Helen Caldicott is a physician turned anti-nuclear advocate. She spent the last 42 years on an international campaign to educate the public about the medical hazards of the nuclear age and the necessary changes in human behavior to stop environmental destruction. Dr. Caldicott's first big-time success in the nuclear field was in 1971 when she played a major role in Australia's opposition to French nuclear testing in the Pacific. Basically, Dr. Caldicott convinced Australia to sue the French, which brought the nuclear practice to an end. From then on, Dr. Caldicott has given many speeches and presentations, written 9 books, and so much more, all in an effort to save our world from the nuclear threat. 2 things Dr. Caldicott says needs to change in order for the nuclear hazards to improve is the government covering up nuclear danger when it happens, and the world using nuclear bombs as their defense. Dr. Caldicott says the public doesn't receive accurate or complete information from the press about real danger from nuclear disasters, most recently the Fukushima nuclear disaster. Dr. Caldicott hosted a symposium in New York with oceanographers, biologists, physicians, and many other scientists in an attempt to educate the media about what was going on in Japan. Few of the media showed, but Dr. Caldicott collected the information presented and published it in her most recent book, Crisis Without End. Caldicott's book explains that on March 11, 2011, a level 9 earthquake caused a 45-foot tsunami to hit Japan. When the tsunami hit, it flooded the Fukushima plant and knocked its power out. Fortunately, only 3 of the 6 reactor cores were functioning at the time, but unfortunately, the backup diesel generators were flooded and unable to take over when the main power went out. This caused the pumps that cooled the cores to stop working and begin melting down. It took about 3 days for the cores to melt down, but the Japanese government didn't tell anyone for 3 months. Since the accident, over 300 tons of radioactive water is pumped into the Pacific by the melted cores daily. The fish in the Pacific carry the radiation all over the ocean, and it's only getting worse. It is so radioactive around the cores that no one can figure out a safe way to get close to them. Japan is also pro-nuclear and not interested in listening to outside help. The Japanese have also passed a law that sends any reporter that reports on the subject to jail for up to 10 years. So hence Caldicott's title, The Crisis Seems to Be Without End. In addition to hosting the symposium and writing her book about the disaster, Caldicott travels the world trying to educate people about what is really going on. Caldicott's other issue with the government is using nuclear missiles as our defense. The U.S. has 14 Trident submarines that carry the nuclear bombs circling the globe at all times. In the event of the bombs being launched, other countries have taken steps to ensure that if the U.S. gets the first hit, their bombs will also go off. After all the bombs go off, clouds of radioactive black smoke would fill the sky and block out the sun for 10 years. With this being such a big threat, you would think that the steps to setting the bombs off wouldn't be done very often. However, it is discussed more than we might think, and sometimes for very bad reasons. One time, the U.S. was launching a weather satellite missile, and the Russians almost mistook it to be a bomb. Russia was informed of the satellite launch, but the data was lost. The bombs were also almost launched on 9/11 just because everyone was panicking and didn't know what was going on. To me, what makes all this worse is that our leaders are paid by nuclear companies and are likely not interested in getting rid of the bombs. In conclusion, Helen Caldicott is a very dedicated activist that is trying to save the world from nuclear hazards. She takes efforts to inform the public about hazards from disasters that have already happened and what could happen if we were in a nuclear war. She has a unique perspective being a physician which gives her points more depth.